The Book of Honey, by Isita Roshaz, Chapter 23, Adjustments, August 26 to September 1, 2030. Honey, this was a real period of adjustment. I went from a gypsy-like life, traveling around the world facing different climates and weather. Now I'm living in a house with running hot and cold water. Electricity was constantly working. Food was at my fingertips whenever I wanted. I got to do what I wanted, and as long as I stayed close to the house and was back before they noticed I was gone, I didn't have any problems. On the inside, I was in charge of over 30 people, if not more at a time, taking care of individual needs as well as the group. My group of people was mostly made up of young kids between 4 and 14. Then there were a handful of older teens and some young adults. I never had time for myself. There was always someone in need of something. I had a group of people inside that I was in with so tightly. I always knew they had my back when I need to be shielded from the overwhelming need of the group. My bunch would rally around me. I called them my kids even though some of them were older or close to my age. When they needed me, I got it done for them. Inside that place they were my support and they followed me without question. Now it's just me, with a small unknown group of guys I verily know, in a place I have never been to. I cook for them. It helps me get to know them, as well as makes me feel like I'm doing something that helps them out. When I'm not around them, I was up in my room. For the first few days, all I did was sleep during the day. Sometimes I would go to the study, reading while William worked. They asked me if I needed anything. I would answer as simply and politely as I can, with no thank you or no I'm good. 2 or 3 weeks and I couldn't stand not having things to do. So, I would go around and clean the common living areas we all spent time in. This allowed me to listen in on more than one conversation. They may not know I was quietly taking in everything I could, trying to find my footing in this place. Most of the time all they did was talk about work. Some talks about sports, family, interests. Wood talked about dates he'd had. When it was just Brom and Wood, both of them would have a few conversations about what they thought about me, and about William when he wasn't around. Brom mostly talked around Wood, but once in a while, he would defend William. Wood complained about a lot, but he got just as much done as both William and Brom. That was impressive when I stopped and thought about it. I mean, he must have more to him for William to keep him around. Wood is a simple person that likes to talk a lot but says little. He liked to hear himself talk. I couldn't help it when I snuck up on Wood quite often. He made it far too easy, and the squealing he made was so satisfying. In the first couple of weeks, I would just stand there to see how long it took him to notice me. I once sat at the kitchen counter for a whole 30 minutes while he was in there making himself lunch. He'd turn around and jump. One time it was so bad that he dropped an entire pot of macaroni and cheese on the floor and proceeded to swear at me. Dear Jesus, holy fucking Christ, girl, could you cough or sneeze or make a goddamn noise? I kept my silent observation as he went on and on about me, scaring the fuck out of him. I enjoyed making him squirm and rage. So, in the middle of his ranting at me, I leave the room to grab a bucket, broom, and mop. I cleaned up the mess. When I was done, I point to him and say, "You sit down and shut up." He stood there like he wanted to defy me. I stared him down. When he finally sits down, I grab potatoes, butter, bacon, cheese, green onions, whole milk, and corn. Put the bacon and corn on a baking sheet together. I cut up potatoes into 2 pots of boiling water. One was slightly underdone and the other one was soft to the touch. I mashed one and added milk and butter to it, letting it come up to temp slowly. Then the bacon, corn, and green onions were chopped and added in. I spiced everything as I go, with salt, black pepper, cayenne, ginger, and garlic. From the potatoes to the water. When it was all warm, I added the slightly undercooked potatoes and some more milk. It was all thick and creamy. When I take it off the burner and let it cool for just a bit, I add 2 cups of cheese, stirring it in until it's all melted and just right. I poured with a bowl and add bacon on the top, with more cheese and green onions. When I put the bowl in front of him, he took 1 spoonful and I swear his eyes rolled into the back of his head. I sat there and watched him down the first bowl when he licks it clean and asks for more. I tell him, "Go help yourself." He bellows at me. "What the hell is this sorcery you've ladled in front of me, sister?" I smile at Wood's very dramatic way of expressing himself. "It's cheesy potato chowder," Wood says. "More like a golden soup of gods and royalty. Dear gods, that is magnificent." He was so loud about it that both Brom and William, who had been working up in the study waiting for him to finish, came down to see what he was up to. When Wood looked at them and the pot of soup, he cries out loud, "Back you heathens, she made it for me, and I ain't sharin' with you lot." William asked me, "What the hell did you do to Wood?" I shrugged and say, "I scared him into spilling his lunch and felt bad about it, so I made him a pot of cheesy potato chowder." Both Brom and William laughed when they both asked for a bowl of chowder. Wood screamed, "No, no, no, it's all mine." He made a big heaping fuss. He asked what it might take for him to make a mad dash to the door with the whole thing. They all started trying to reason with each other. When I stood up and grabbed 2 more bowls and a container, I made 2 bowls with all the fixings and ladled the rest into the container. They stopped when I put 2 bowls on the counter and handed Wood the container. I say, "The rest is yours, Wood." Wood shouts, "Hooray!" Then I say to him, "If you ever want any more, bring me the stuff to make it." All 3 of them sat there talking. I walked out to the patio. I couldn't let the 3 of them just stare at me for too long. I left the door open so I could hear them. Wood rubbed it in the other 2's faces. Both of them told him to shut the hell up, threatening him with bodily harm. It was light-hearted banter between 3 people that trusted each other very much. It gave me a layer of William I didn't know. Like, what was he like when you take him away from all his responsibility and set him at ease? This was his home and the guys were his friends. People he knew would do what was needed, and they've proven to each other they would stand up for each other. It was something to know. Then there is Brom. He is as quiet as me at times. He often saw me coming before I got there. When I did sneak up on him, he didn't react like Wood or William. He would politely say, "Well, good day to you, Miss Honey. Is there something I can do for you this evening?" I would reply to him just as politely as he did, "No, Thank you, Brom, I'm just passing by. I admit he has thrown me off my game. I have taken it as a personal challenge to make this man uncomfortable in some way. I didn't want to seem like I was trying too hard, so I only took opportunities when they came up naturally. I know if I were to lay in wait, I would outlast him. After a bit of time, I let it go. After a while of being here, I wanted to make a routine. So, I sat down and planned out my day from 4:30 a.m. till I went to bed around 11 p.m. I settle into a routine at the bacon house. I wake at 4 and go to sleep close to 10:30. When I wake up, I shower and then do an hour of stretches. I make breakfast, I run after I eat, starting at the east gate and making my way around the south. I start poking my way through the junk barn. To me, it was like a candy store. Most see rusty junk, I see treasure. I must climb over some of it. There was a sense of organization. It had an upper story I was too afraid of just now. Littered around in boxes, piles, and heaps. There were 10 cans, wire, rusty tools, and farm equipment. Someone liked collecting car plates and horns. There were fence posts and sheets of wood and tin. For my first haul back, I brought back a roll of electrical wire and a bunch of tin cans. I looked around and decided I would make the unused greenhouse into a storage place for me to work from. It had power and water. William had to go into the office for a few days. So, it was me, Wood, and Brom. I spent most of the day hauling different tools up from the basement to put it in the greenhouse. Eventually, I'd like to get a garden going, but it's about winter time and I want to focus on giving myself some stuff to do. So, I get to clean most of the tools and materials. Between finding my rhythm and how to take Wood and Brom the first couple of days, I had so much to do that at night I could fall asleep without needing a security blanket. I didn't always stay asleep. I would work on chain mail or some other various things. For the most part, I and the guys didn't talk. I would run around all day planning stuff. I spent a lot of time in my room or the greenhouse. They come and check on me. Besides that, we saw each other at meals. Something did pass between us that made me feel a little bit calmer towards them. Like one day I was coming back from a run, and I was a little bit late making a large haul of rusty gold, and it happened to be one of the times when William was checking up. He gave Wood an earful about not knowing where I was. In turn, he tried to give me a hard time as well. I came walking in from the greenhouse after stashing my stuff. When Wood comes at me with a stick up his ass, like he was about to tear me a new one. "Where the hell have you been, sister? I just got an earful from William about you." At first, I didn't realize he was even talking to me. Slamming me as I was coming in was never going to be a good thing for him. I stand there saying nothing while he pelts me with belittling remarks and taunts. When he was good and red in the face, I shifted my stance, dropped into a crouch, and swiped his legs right out from underneath him. I was back up, on my feet, before he even knew he'd been dumped on his ass. I say to him in a very clear and calm way, "Wood, you are a slow, motherfucking, ass for a mouth, and you can't keep your feet underneath you to save your life. It's a wonder that you can even see me coming and going at all. Oh, wait, you don't. I've been getting up at the same time every day. I come back roughly at the same time. I'm not even making it hard for you. Believe me, if I wanted to make it hard, Wood, I could. I've been following all the rules that have been set for me. It's not my problem that you're not doing your job and getting yelled at. So, the only thing I'm going to tell you, Wood, is stop fucking complaining to me about your problems and do a fucking better job. I shut that shit down. He never expected such foul language and sound reasoning to come out of my mouth at the same time. Delivering calm, cool, and calculated. Brom came to see what was up. I stepped over Wood. He was speechless on the floor. Both of them watched me as I left the room. I listened at the landing at the top of the stairs. Brom said he'd never seen such a thing in all the time he's known Wood. The next morning Wood was waiting for me at the foot of the steps. I looked him up and down, knowing he thought he was going with me. I passed his ass, then turned and tell him, "Your old single ass couldn't keep up with me on an even day, let alone an odd one." At those words, I knew I had just lit a fire in his red head. "All right, sister, I'll bet you in a week I can pass your ass." I ask, "What do you want to bet?" He asks, "What have you got?" I say, "Give me a second." I run upstairs and grab one of the small empty treasure boxes. The one designed as a playing card pack. A small screwdriver goes with it. I hand it to him and say, "Here we are." He says, unimpressed, "A pack of cards." I take it from his hands and say, "Just watch." I pass the screwdriver over the edges. The tabs pop open, pushing them until the lid pops open, revealing a space. Wood says, "Aw, that's nifty, where'd you get it?" I told him, "I made it." He says, "Oh, sister, you've got some skills. What's it do?" I explained to him. It's a completely airtight, waterproof container that's undetectable by airport security. That looks like a harmless pack of cards. Believe me, it's been tried and tested. Wood gives me a look up and down, then says, "All right, you've convinced me, I want it." I asked him, "What about you? What are you offering?" He tells me, "I will buy you one power tool of your choice, reasonably priced." I noticed you seemed to like them. The tone implied something more. I let it slide. My mind was thinking of what I needed. So, I say, "I don't need any more tools, if you would let me have stuff delivered to your place, so I can do some online shopping." I can't have stuff delivered here. Wood acts like he's thinking about it. That is relatively cheaper. You have yourself a deal, sister. That is how it started going with me on my morning runs. I was right, he couldn't keep up with me. After some time, I accidentally stumbled across Wood's secret. He trips on his way up the steps to the drive and does a tuck and roll. I froze in disbelief. Then I say to him, "No way, you do parkour." A grin spread across his face. "Sister, I'm the parkour king of Belfast. I've done videos." I say to him, "Show me." We spend hours talking about some of the runs we've done. Then I blurted out, "I'm planning to turn the tennis court into a parkour run." He gives me a look. I hold up my hands. "William gave me permission to change things around here." Wood says to me, Why the hell would you do that? This place might be fun, the swags won't allow that much fun. After I stop laughing, I show him my plans and some of the stuff I already have done. He tosses out ideas and even helps me do some of the woodworking. I found it ironic that Wood told me he came from a family of carpenters. Born in Ireland and lived there till he was 16. His father was a carpenter who moved his family to London. Opened Robertson's Carpenters family of trees. I laughed at his parents' originality. He was the middle brother of 7 siblings. 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Their names are in order: Oakley, Bay, Willow, Woodley, Yewy, Ash, and Spruce. I enjoyed Wood's company as time went on. He reminded me of one of my kids. It put me at ease to deal with him, the way I would with Rusty. He stopped trying to bait me into blowing just for the attention. He learned even though I'm polite doesn't mean he can mess with me. After my runs and when I'm not working in the greenhouse, I spent time gutting my room out. Everything went so I could scrub the place from the ceilings to the floors, and I did tons of laundry from the stuff in the attic. The only thing I needed was the paint that William was supposed to bring me. I didn't mind William being gone at first. I found myself wandering around the house. Finding myself at his door, I would then call myself 3 kinds of stupid and get on with myself. Then one day I decided to slow down by working in my room on my new set of chainmail. When I heard a car rolling up the drive, I run to the window. It was William. My heart started beating so fast. Without thinking, I headed down the stairs. Skipping steps as I came down and landed on the bottom step, I paused. There was Brom, dark eyes staring at me up and down. He made me stop and think about what I was doing. I was acting like an excited dog greeting him at the door. Brom took one look at me, and I could tell he knew why I had been so energetic. I was so thrown off that all I could say was, "Don't tell anyone." Brom gives me a very toothy grin. I swear it was worse than William's when he was smug about something. "Miss Honey, I have 5 daughters, 3 sisters, a wife, and a mum. I would never reveal a secret that a lady wasn't ready to share with anyone, including herself." I was stunned there. He walked down the hall to wait for William. I walked into the kitchen, refusing to let myself admit that happened. So, I started to cook. I stood there thinking about what Brom said. I was very impressed by the way he got into my head. So, I told myself that he was worth getting to know. I recognize him as a man who saw just like I do, by watching and waiting for someone to slip. I feel like I've been sunbathing in the desert naked. It burned me deep, knowing that someone was able to read me. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on around me. I was so pissed off at him and myself. I'll admit that I carried a pissy attitude around for a few days. When William handed my stuff over, I thanked him very sharply. He seemed confused as I walked away. I got mad at myself at my slip of emotion. I couldn't bring myself to look at him for the next few days. That made me go from pissed to angry. For days I whirled around here being pissy and snappy, trying to keep myself busy. Keeping this to myself, I knew that nobody had done anything to me, and I knew I was going to blow. At first, I thought I was doing fine with it, but I started to slip. I would lie down and just stare at the ceiling. It seemed like every time I turned around, I kept making mistakes. They kept piling up, like burning food or over-bleaching some of my clothes, cutting myself. It was a nightmare walking around on two legs. The worst part was having a never-ending audience of people catching me in the middle of it. I started making snappy remarks, ignoring people altogether. I tore down Wood during one of our runs. I left him standing there staring at me. Then Brom asked me if I was all right, and I bit his head off. Then William tried to see what was wrong. I pushed him through one of the windows of the greenhouse. Luckily, he didn't get hurt. It scared me. That was when I knew that I needed to get a grip. I was seeking space and clarity. Whatever this anger was, it was more than just being caught by Brom. If I didn't get my head out of my ass, I would hurt someone. So, I sat on the floor in my room cross-legged. Breathing deeply, I feel that anger that's been just under the surface. I looked at it with my mind's eye and asked myself, what are you? Where did you come from? What can I do to neutralize you? Most of the time my mind doesn't answer me back. It was buzzing at me tonight for me to listen. Little snippets of words and images kept coming. Most of my thoughts were on my kids. I sighed and knew that not being with them is causing me anxiety. Settling down into the darkness of my mind. A place that was full of only possibilities and no limitations. I am a person that has conquered mountains and slayed dragons. This moment is hard. I feel alone. Like I've lost everything again. I'm starting over from nothing. Then a whisper hits me so small that if I wasn't paying attention, I would have missed it. You're not alone, honeybee. When you're not doing what makes you who you are, you get lost. Don't stop fighting and keep going. You're going to make it. Don't forget who you are. That was my papa. I hadn't heard him for some time. He always finds me when I'm about to learn a lesson. I say out loud to myself. It's been a long time since I've said this to myself, but I need to hear it. I am Natalie Honeybee Ledger, the Leona Bee, and Miss Honey, the daughter of Celestia Atza Ledger and Nicholas Silver Ledger. MMA fighters that were brave and strong. They gave me everything I am. Granddaughter to Dominic St. Austin Ledger. The greatest warrior that has ever lived. I have been stabbed, shot, whipped, and beaten to within an inch of my life. I'm still here. I want my life more than anything. Sitting for hours when I open my eyes. I know what I need to do to get my head on straight. I need to kick something's ass. How and where was going to be the question. So, I started making plans. Changing into black clothes and my fighting gear. Grabbing a sack filled with the things I was going to need. I climbed onto the roof. The night was a little cloudy. The wind was chilly. It had been a while since I had moved around in a dark place. I perched on the edge of the roof, silently watching as the night unfolds. The house itself was a rectangle. From the foundation to the roof. The roof is flat once you get past the gutters. There was no shortage of footholds. I climbed till I was at the same level as the garden wall. It was cloudy. I could see perfectly when I made my jump to the wall. Brom and Wood pass under me as I am watching. William walks up to them. They're standing around for a bit talking about nothing. When out of nowhere William asked them, "Do either of you know why Honey's in a foul mood of late?" Both of them look at William and then at each other. William says, Wood, did you say something to her? Wood tosses out his defenses. Oh no, you don't. She and I had been getting along smashingly. You ask Big Brother Brum here what he said to her when she came down the stairs the other day. I didn't hear it. One moment she was hopping around like she always does, the next thing I know she's pissed every time you talk to her. William looks at Brom and says, Brom, I'm surprised at you. He said it bashfully. I know, William, I didn't mean to. It was just one of those moments when I was in the right place at the right time. William nods. Well, yes, that might be what did it. Brom pleads to him. What should I do, William? It pleased me to hear the panic tone in Brom's voice. Nothing would be best. They continue to talk about me. I just roll my eyes as I watch and listen. None of these guys know a damn thing. Men are just as talkative as women. They never handle it as well as we do. They don't realize it. When women are around, at that point, they no longer want to talk to each other, only us instead. For the most part, I stay perfectly still until all three of them move on. When all was quiet, I made my way down the house. Jumping the western wall, I made my way into the orchard. If I didn't get my head on straight, I was going to hurt someone. When I was inside, this happened, but my inner circle knew that meant leaving me alone. Till I could work it out for myself. When I saw William's light go on, I knew he was going to be working for the night. The ground around the orchard trees was flatter and there was plenty of space between each one. I picked a tree and tossed my stuff at the roots. Inside my bag was a bunch of old comforters that came from one of the linen closets. Big down blankets that were thick. I used 2 knives to pin them to the tree. Then wrap them around and use a rope to tie them in place. I went around the tree testing to see if it would stay up. For a second, I sat under the tree just listening to the sounds of the night. When I stand up to stretch and warm up, I pull my jacket off, then my pants. I'm standing in my boxer shorts and sports bra. I put on my gloves, and I stand there feeling. I close my eyes, settling myself into my head and my body. Letting the world fall away, there was no crowd. That didn't matter, the only thing there was me and what was right in front of me. I took a deep breath, finding that familiar feeling. When all I can see is the tree, all I can feel is me. My heart skips a beat as I hear his voice. It's been a time. Baby, you know what to do. Remember, when you make your first move, don't let them see where it's coming from and make a show out of every action you take. I open my eyes and I can see every one of them. I start to do my dance, where I stare down at my opponents, circling them with my patience, unhinging them with my eyes, and the pissed off look on my face, making them question themselves without a word. Maybe he was the boy who stabbed my hand. The big bastard that liked to rape girls and boys in the ring, once he had them down. Was it the woman that liked to tear your skin to the bone? It doesn't matter, I beat them all. It was them or me, and I always chose me. When I fight for freedom, I always want it more. Punching, kicking, biting, clawing, I play all those fights in my head with each move. I remember every move and step I took. I remember the pain they took out of me. In the end, I paid them all back. Playing those moments over and over in my head. Woking up a sweat as I worked muscles I hadn't used in almost 2 months.